Hi, I'm founder Jorden Gold of the Stretch Zone, and I work way too much. Like most Americans, I spend way too much time sitting. I recommend everyone out there to look up and Google the sitting disease, which is becoming a huge epidemic in the world today. And in today's segment of Flexibility for Life, we're going to be talking about how it affects your body in a myoskeletal way. But real quick, I just wanted people to look it up. There's more than studies going on with 4 million plus people in each study showing that's way worse than smoking. And just like smoking, if you smoke and you go to the gym and exercise, it still doesn't reduce the risk. Same thing with sitting too much. You sit too much, even if you go to the gym for an hour and work out really, really hard, you're still going to have all the negative effects of sitting. It's a bad, bad epidemic. But that being said, I'm about stretching. So let's see how it goes with your body with stretching. Meet the hip flexors. Your hip flexors, which are made primarily of your psoas muscle and your iliacus. This is your psoas on your body. If it's on a plate, it's a tenderloin. So next time you eat a tenderloin, you're eating the psoas muscle. This muscle, when you sit, is in a shorted position, and it creates a muscle imbalance or an anterior tilt of the pelvis. This muscle becomes short. It will pull your pelvis forward, creating a stretch along your lower back muscles, which then have to go into an isometric contraction to keep you straight. Now that being said, look at me. Here I am sitting in a chair all day long. My hip flexors are in a shorted position. So what's that mean? That means when I stand up, after 6 to 8 hours, unfortunately, sitting at a time, if I stand up, they're still in a shorted position. My mind wants my eyes to be parallel to the horizon, so it isometrically contracts my lower back muscles to pull me straight. Okay, but what happens when you see older people walking, they have an anterior tilt of the pelvis, and they walk like this, shuffling their feet. This is cause of the back pain. If you can lengthen the hip flexors, then the lower back can go out of its isometric contraction and you can walk more freely. That being said, I am now going to show you a stretch that you can do at your home to stretch out the hip flexors. So one, I recommend everybody to stand at least once every 30 minutes when you're sitting doing a job or a task. Walk as much as possible to keep your muscles active, and do this particular stretch that I'm going to show you now, which is our favorite stretch for the hip flexors. And I'm going to demonstrate that now. So with the hip flexor stretch, I recommend that you put something on the floor to protect your kneecap. Some kind of pillow, pad, anything could suffice. Here's a wedge. You want to drop down carefully onto one knee. What's called the kneeling lunge. I'm going to put one leg forward, one leg back. You want to keep the pelvis in what's called a posterior tilt. Remember in the slide, anterior tilt is the problem. So you want a posterior tilt. You want to bring the pelvis back. You want to lunge forward, keeping your knee from going past your toes. And you want to push the opposite, the stretching knee, into the pad. And you create a stretch across your hip flexors. Keep your shoulders over your hips. Lean forward nice and slow. Feel the stretch. Count to 2. Come back nice and slow, let it breathe, and try it again. Come forward for a count of 2, let it breathe. If you want to deepen the stretch to an anterior stretch to get this psoas, you want to lean across that same body, leg, and you get a little bit more of a stretch. Come back, switch legs carefully, bring the other knee forward. Again, don't let the knee go past the toes. You want to push the bottom leg into the pad, shoulders over your hips, lean forward for a count of 2, relax, again, count of 2, relax, deepen the stretch by leaning to the side, and come back. Do that, and it will lengthen the hip flexors, and it will counteract the sitting disease of sitting in a chair. I'm Jorden Gold, founder of the Stretch Zone, And today's segment, you've found a stretch for the sitting disease, stretching the hip flexors.